Our last game of the day isn't just the final game for us, it also could be the final game for Spacestation. The fall from grace we just can't stop talking about has reached an all-new stake. Spacestation have no more lives left. If they lose today under the right circumstances, then they won't be in the North American League playoffs, and they'll have to brave the qualifier if they want to have a shot of going to a major, which they've done. They did that for Atlanta. It's not uncharted territory, but again, it's something you don't want to deal with. I'm Jacob, he's Foxay, he's Jesse. Last game of the day, OXG were undefeated up until about 24 hours ago, and now they've got Spacestation in what is literally their last game of the stage.
Yeah, when we talk about SSG being such a mental fortitude team, I'd love to see how they handle this much pressure being on their shoulders. Not only are they not getting to playoffs if they lose this game, but they're just being eliminated at this point and then having to go through the LCQ. I mean, I couldn't imagine a situation where you go into this thinking, oh, playoffs, no problem. We'll definitely get top 6. Now you're at risk of not getting top 6.
Hey, it would also be a new experience for Spacestation, right? I mean, to have this rough of a stage, it's never happened, at least in recent history. Since Ashen joined this team, they've made it to every single major tournament, whether that's SI or the majors.
Yep.
So it would be a shock to see Spacestation not qualify to Manchester. As we've said, LCQ is a factor, so they could still make it. But still, this is new ground for Spacestation Gaming, and for them to fall in a match like this and then not make it to the Manchester Major through qualifiers would be a shock to them and their fans.
It would literally be a 180 of what happened in Stage 3 of last year. If you remember, Spacestation lost their first 4 games. Some of them were overtime finishes, so they still had some points, but then they bounce back, win the rest of them, and then they need to make the LCQ run in order to do it in the first place. They won their first 3 games, and there's the potential for them, if they lose this one, to have lost their last 5. Literally a carbon copy of the previous stage, just completely flipped on its head. And OXG absolutely could be the arbiters of that downfall. They were undefeated until a game against DZ yesterday, and it wasn't just a loss, it was a beating.
It was. I mean, they got completely rolled over by a Dark Zero that we all thought was going to fall to pieces. They looked absolutely at the bottom of their career. But then Bolo comes out, has a perfect game, doesn't die once, and because of that, we see Oxygen Esports come around crumbling on Consulate. I'm not that worried. I do think Oxygen are still the best-looking team inside of North America. I think they should bounce back. One game does not frighten me, but the fact that it was the last game, the fact that it was yesterday, maybe does give some pause for concern.
But it's not the worst thing in the world, obviously, because we want to paint a team that was doing really well in a positive light. The scoreline might be a little bit scary, but there's still tons of things that OXG at this point are doing right.
There's a lot of amazing things to take from OXG in their previous games, especially in their game on Chalet, where they just had amazing executes. It looked like they just never let up against Sonics. Right here, the whole purpose is Newers jumps in and he's going to be the bait. Obviously, he gets a nice pick, but it's the rest of OXG that we're worried about. Look at where they're all set up. OXG's been the bait, but every single push that one person plays, there's always 2 people behind them. So once they kill Newers, they think they're safe. And SQ, the way that they handle problems is they go for these frags and they overpeak, and that's where OXG's players are. There's never one play without 2 people. But when we looked at the game that they played against Dark Zero, that was not the case. Obviously, it could have been the map that had a huge play to it, but Dark Zero just had such an amazing step-by-step process on focusing OXG to force on executes, and every time that OXG went for those executes, a C4, a Solus, something was there to stop them, and we didn't see OXG respond in the fashion that we've seen them do in the first 5 games, which is 2 people pushing at all moments. They were isolated completely by Dark Zero.
Comes down to trust, and even though it's a new team coming through from OXG, they've got some new rosters. A lot of these players have played together before, and so that trust came very, very quickly to this roster.
So they're doing pretty good, aside from that DZ game, which they want to forget. They're going to have to wipe it from their memory banks before coming into this game. Spacestation, there's a lot of things that they wish they could forget, but now is not the time. That loss on Cafe just yesterday to Beast Coast, really effective first half, explosive start to the second with 2 separate players leading hero plays, and then Beast Coast brought a shield, and it just kind of felt like there was nothing they could do.
They didn't have the adaptation on defense. SSG looks like a story of small mistakes. Their attacks are so strong, they're able to adapt amazingly, but once they get onto defense, it's not really the same. It goes into individual plays.
So for Spacestation, there are some things they know they need to fix. We sat down with Iconic a couple days ago as this slide was just getting underway to see if there was anything he thought about the way in which Spacestation could recover their stage.
Groups is like, it's mainly about just kind of getting comfortable and getting ready for playoffs. So I feel like right now, like, We're still developing, still trialing stuff. It's mainly just a process, and you have to keep with the process and keep sticking through it. So the way to keep the mental healthy is always to remain in the moment. So I feel like, you know, we have those losses, but we have to learn from those losses and keep moving. So I feel like with us, it's always about putting that next foot forward and just kind of coming back ready to go. So I feel like we took a nice weekend to rejuvenate, and we're ready to get back to practice. I mean, our coaches, they push us every day, like in and out of practice, just trying to make us better people, better humans, you know. I feel like it's big because we talk about accountability and stuff like that a lot. It's just good to have like strong heads leading us and just making sure that we're on top of what we need to be on top of. And I feel like it's a key to the success. For OXG, we prepare for all the teams the same, so we're going to come in, watch the VODs, do our prep, and just get after it. Excited to see him.
Spacestation need a really big hand because thus far it's been a very drastic slide. Undefeated to start the stage, everything was looking pretty good. 2 consecutive 5-7 losses, probably not the end of the world, but then that game against Wildcard happened and suddenly everyone's like, what the hell is going on with SSG?
Iconic, I believe in him. I believe in his method, I believe in the player he is, but he said it, that they're still trying to figure things out and adapt to things, but this is their last opportunity. At what point are they going to have to figure things out or just completely lose and have to focus on the LCQ?
So, yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, we saw the 3 games there were 7-5s that they ended up losing. It's really come down to the small mistakes from Spacestation. Their last game, when they started to crumble on Cafe, it was round after round after round. We'll take a look at some of them. The biggest thing for me was their inability to deny plants. Whether that was a player like Forrest, who has the main utility to stop the plant going down in the early round, or whether that was stuff like the Yokai drone not getting there in time to stop the defuse kit. Maybe it was a C4, as we see right here, not coming out in time, whether it gets EMP'd or it just isn't able to pop off. There it is. That one's not able to explode. It always felt like they just didn't have an answer to the planter. And even in this one, you know, they've got the Yokai again being played by Faults this time around. It's having some impact, but we can see before they actually are able to deny that plant, Faults gets taken down way too often. The one thing that Spacestation would have, which would be the game plan to deny the plant, would be eliminated before they could actually go for the plant stopping. So it's these small mistakes from Spacestation. It seems like a different small mistake every single time, which makes it very, very frustrating, but now is when they got to solve it.
Right. It would suggest a 5-7 loss. It's only a couple of rounds, which is the reason why they're losing, but their standing is that they're literally several games behind where they need to be, and they need to get out of a pretty big hole. And Bank is the battleground they have to do it on. OXG get defense first. We saw one Bank with a really bad attacker start earlier in the day. Our SSG cooked here.
SSG's attacks are not the problem, it's their defenses, and we saw from the last game that Wildcard played, it's all about the defenses. And I just don't think right now that SSG has adapted. It still feels like they're playing this individual frag-heavy style on defense, and if you're going to contest OXG right now, OXG is hitting all of their shots. Besides against Dark Zero. The Dark Zero made it a utility game, a plant-focused game. And I don't know if SSG currently has the ability to force OXG into that equilibrium.
Yeah, I mean, we just did a whole clip on Spacestation not being able to deny plants. You look at the basement of Bank, that's kind of what the main point of the game is, right?
Yeah.
Tossing those C4s, the Toxic Babes, to try to deny the plants. So it's going to be a tough one. I'm looking at predictions here. I see Fox going for the OXG. I know I'm a bit behind.
Fox.
Is this the first time you've been under 50% the whole time?
I think I've floated up and down.
Bleeding, buddy.
That's not great.
I think I'm 2 behind you. I've got to go Auction as well. I think they're the better squad, and I think Spacestation's problems denying that plant on their defenses are going to continue on a map like Bank.
Seems like at the moment it's a 2-way tie for first place. Are you going to go with what Laxine did or go the other way?
No, this isn't the game to risk it. I'm going to keep it OXG. I really do think that everything is in their favor for this game.
You think everything's going their way?
So far, I do. I know Diaz, Gomez, and Yogg used to be very prominent on Bank back on Xset.
That's true, yeah.
So now seeing those 3 together, it obviously wasn't a good OXG map when I was on the team.
Right.
But seeing them together could change the tides.
All right, and again, it's not that any SSG loss means they're totally out of the picture. If they were to get a 3-point win, then they're not completely in the clear either. It's a whole smorgasbord of possibilities for Spacestation. All they know right now in their last game of the stage right here is that they need the full 3 points. Can they do it? Sam McCarter will tell us.
I gotta say,
Really?
I gotta say, okay. I agree with like everything the desk said. The problems with SSG's defenses, too frag heavy, small individual mistakes, close games that end up not getting it over the line. I agree with all that. However, I've seen the map. I've seen Bank, and something we have to address. This has been OXG's permaban, well, basically permaban the entire stage. It was their first ban in the first 3 games and against DZ yesterday. I'm not saying they don't have a bank, especially with what Fox said, like maybe Gomez, Diaz, and Yaga bringing in a bank with them, or at least Gomez and Diaz. But this seems to be a map that I think OXG maybe don't really have prepped and are fine showing because they've already made playoffs. And that might give SSG an opportunity. I did want to say that.
It very well might. And I think SSG also have this going for themselves as well. They haven't played Bank either this stage. So it leaves one big old question mark as to what happens in between these two squads. And I'm really, really excited, especially for the last map of the day, Carter. Let's sink our teeth into this and see what happens. We're almost through the ban phase here. We got Monty, Ying, and Kaid removed. What's going to be the last? It'll be Fenrir to try and assist with a few of these swing positions. And that's going to be about it for the ban phase. But as I was saying, Oxygen and SSG, this is bound to be a banger here on Bank.
I mean, it's got to. I mean, this would have been game of the day had Beast Coast not had the resurgence they've had over the past few play days. This would absolutely be the one everyone was waiting for, not only to see if OXG could maintain their dominance throughout the NAL. They've got 2 more games, obviously SSG right now and then M80 tomorrow. But more importantly, see if SSG in their final game of the stage. This is their 8th and last one. This is their final shot to try to save their chances at playoffs. Will they be able to do it against a team that's 5-1? Will they be able to beat the losing streak they have so far? Again, they've lost the past 4 games in a row, potentially with their 5th right here if they can't get it over the line. It has been a dire stage for Spacestation, a complete fall from grace. But at least to start, it's their attacks that have looked the better of the comparative sides, and starting out on Locker's CCTV, Sam, doesn't seem like OXG is throwing any curveballs their way.
Yep. I feel like you could put SSG and Sonics in similar boats. Not the same boat.
100%.
Sonics didn't exactly lose their IGL, did they? They just got some new tools for Geo to play with. Whereas for SSG, things have definitely kind of been a rekindling of what we saw from Astralis back in the day. Iconic back at the helm of what is kind of a rekindled roster from what we'd previously seen. And he's still trying to get a solid understanding of what the heck this team does, how they tick, and, understand how the heck they want to try and go about things on these maps. So I think that both of these teams not really having any insight as to how the other goes about it, I think that this is going to be a really great moment for especially Iconic to try and flex just how good of an IGL he is. He doesn't really have anything to work off of, just SSG's grit and their ability to try and win things out here on Bank.
And with OXG being qualified for playoffs again, they can afford to let a game slip away at this point. Not saying that they're not going to try. They obviously guaranteeing that number 1 or 2 seed, getting the bye in the first round of playoffs would be great. But this is still, the implication is there, that if there is ever a time for OXG to have a bit of a dip in performance and not really sweat about it too much, this would be the game, and maybe SSG will be able to capitalize. Minute 10 seconds in. Seen a bit of a utility clear. To clear that top floor, hard breach charges, soft destruction, some momentum gained by Spacestation, and it's forced OXG to start rotating back. But aside from that, no real shots exchanged, except some bits of damage done to Newers, but everyone from OXG has backed off down to the bottom floor. The middle floor is in full control of Spacestation Gaming's hands.
Oh, this timing is amazing. Oh, man. Iconic.
So cheeky. Just so
That's going to be so frustrating. That's one of those things where one of these analysts sat in here and was like, you know what? I bet that you can't place a secondary hard breach right around the hatch if you put one of these Goyos right in the center.
They've got the Zotos on this operation too. This is actually this is such a nerdy strat from OXG. This is disgusting.
Yeah, Hopes and Redeemer, they need to just chill out a little bit. This is too much, boys. Newers is going to be able to pick off Forest too. It even gets worse for SSG. Is not able to contest on the hatches, not able to contest when it comes to firepower either.
Newers having, if anybody, this inside of the NA League is back, it is Newers. Had a rough stage 2 last year, obviously missed a lot of the events, get the first pick on the Forest, but hello? Iconic's getting the diffuser down. Hello? Oxygen. Hello? Hello? Is anybody home? Ashen just baiting outside a garage. Is able to find Yaga. Not doing a whole lot, unfortunately. But SSG have somehow snuck in, got the diffuser down. One of the toxic canisters had to have missed. Maybe the C4s as well. By the way, Iconic not taking a lick of damage as he puts that diffuser down. So now OXG have to go for the retake. The attack might have just slipped around over the line as Fultz popping out from the elevator, finds one, loses his life to DS Lucas, sprinting into the crosshairs of that Vector. The round is still surely won, though, as Dream, caught with a smoke canister in hand, puts all the work on to DS Lucas with 3 seconds remaining before that case is beyond reproach. SSG get that first round. Seemed like they were shut out of it. Then all of a sudden, the Fuser goes down with OXG none the wiser.
I'm just so gobsmacked by the fact that that was accessible to SSG in the way that it was.
He's laughing.
No, yeah, I would be too, laughing straight to the bank, Carter, with that round. Oxygen, they have nitro cells, they have mirror windows, they've got smokes implemented. Nothing shows up to the table to try and deal with this plant coming out of SSG. You said it yourself, not a single bit of damage done to Iconic inside of that round. Yeah, Oxygen, more specifically Newer, is able to get a pretty big kill there inside of the opener, but that was about it. SSG find a moment in time where not only are they capable of putting a plant down, they're capable of holding Oxygen at bay, practically stiff-arming them in round 1 to make that possible. Very well done.
Fitting time, by the way, with SSG getting that first round to lay fully the stakes of this game. Any win will get OXG top 2. Any win whatsoever will get Oxygen the bye in the playoffs. So they are cruising. They can fully put on the cruise control, turn up the radio. They are chilling this game. But this game means a lot for 2 people. One, SSG. We already mentioned. If they lose this game, they're out of playoffs. But if SSG win in regulation, Sonics are out. Done. Sonic's fate is already relatively out of their hands, but with that 1 round win from SSG, if they find a way to close this out at one of the many close score lines they've had this stage, just out of 7-5 instead of losing a 5-7, Sonics will not be in playoffs.
No. Absolutely ludicrous when it comes to that organization as well, right? I mean, such a tenured history when it comes to Siege. But, I mean, hey, sometimes you need to take a reevaluation, and that's what they've done with this recent squad.
Sometimes you got a shitty stage, too. Sometimes
you know,
just suck.
I mean, hey, exactly. Sometimes things happen. It's you and I were talking about this in the green room earlier, but I think this is a perfect moment to bring this up. It's like if you're a football fan, American football for some of the Europeans, I'm sure, that are watching. It's like being a New England fan. It's like being a Patriots fan. You know, eventually stuff has to fall off the wagon, and for Sonics, it finally has. Although, for Oxygen, though, things definitely not for round 2. Ashen going to go down here, but it's going to be immediately traded out for Dream. What? Yogg? An insane find inside of stock. Not something you'd exactly think that he'd be able to win out in that scenario, not given his skill, just given the circumstances. And what the hell is happening? Oh, that's a round. That's a round of Rainbow Six Siege, folks. I really hope that we're doing our jobs as commentators and you feel enticed to buy the game if you're a new viewer. What the hell just happened?
Dream clap after that round. I mean, honestly, we were on the rails. We were on the rails for a decent bit of that round. It's like, okay, Ashen's got the first pick. Forrest has found a gap on Marble Stairs. I like this. I like this from Space Station. And then he just gets fried by Yaga, and it's like, that's really unfortunate. That could have been a huge play to up the tempo for SSG. That's a really unfortunate loss. And then Gomez gets another kill. That's exciting. Diaz shoots Yaga in the face. Okay. Gomez rotating back to the site, fries the guy printer window, and Fultz is in a 1v3. Sure. Why not? I mean, the guns are certainly alive from OXG. That's been the big thing we've talked about this whole stage, has been the performance specifically from Newers, Diaz, and Gomez. The 3 players, well, Yaga as well, but 3 of the players who've really shown up this stage and really shown up in these past couple bank rounds, win or lose, have been really impressive. And the firepower on OXG has been enough to beat competition alone. Even if some of the attacks have some problems, the defenses have some problems, which they've had problems on the attack, they've had problems in the defense. But everyone is so good, in such good form this stage, it hasn't entirely mattered. Was round 2 defined by that? Almost entirely.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think Oxygen's capabilities this stage have really centered around their ability to just outclass their opponent. They have so many talented players across this roster, and they're playing along to the beat of their own drum. That's what I love so much about Oxygen right now. And especially their ability to pick up DS and Gomez. Although, it's two players that have time and time again been able to play along with each other in any roster they plugged into, it's still a huge move for Oxygen to be able to pick them up and play along to the capabilities that they have, to the heights that they have. And it's been very, very well done. To that degree, tip of the cap to Oxygen, as they've found some way, somehow, to be able to stride past all of these teams, including M80, who, for any Siege fan, you look at the names on M80 and you're like, wow, so they just went out and got everybody that you could potentially want inside of Rainbow Six Siege.
You see the M80 roster and you're like, how is this team not flawless? They should be winning every game
Exactly.
7-0.
Exactly. You're like, these guys should be winning games in their sleep.
They've got Spoit, they got Citizen. I mean, it's like if you build an NBA team as a kid and you're like, I want LeBron, I want Michael Jordan, I want Kobe. It's like, all right, you just put on a bunch of scorers, but they should probably win games, right? And in this case, M80 have got themselves a nice clean second. They've locked in playoffs. I also think it's important, by the way, keep in mind, so obviously OXG missing out on every major in SI last year, consistently getting like right at 5th place inside of NA, right outside of their spots, though very much deserving in some cases. Yaga was the highest rated player on OXG last stage. Highest rated, and not just on OXG, in the entire league, he was the highest rated player. And then this stage, it is DS, Gomez, and Newers leading the way. And in the stage where Yaga is not the highest rated player in the whole league, that's the one where OXG get the first 5-0 start in the history of the NAL. It's where, sure, they have a loss to Dark Zero, but it's where the previous 5 games don't even look that difficult. When the highest rated player in all of North America in stage 2 of this last year can have a pretty, fine, mid-average performance and still get the best start any team has had in the history of NA, that is the level of form these players on OXG are playing at right now. And obviously, of course, we talked a lot about OXG already. SSG in a bit of rough shape for them overall, but Ashen, he's the highest rated player in the league, and it seems SSG more on the fate of OXG last stage than this stage.
Yeah, so talented. I think the key thing is right now for them is that, Iconic is essentially, you want to talk in esports time, he's far removed from that system from when he was implemented inside of what we saw from Collett's last team, which was Astralis, right? Practically a year and some change from that moment in time. And trying to work his way back in, trying to find his pacing, how the team wants to work around him, who's going to be making these secondary calls, how people are, comfortable on their current roles or what have you. That's all things that are up in the air for Spacestation. And they'll continue to try and work against. And it's going to continue to be one of those scenarios. It's very similar to what we see out of the Sonics. It's something where they have a lot of different things up in the air right now, and they're figuring out how to bolt these things down. I think the only team that we've really seen hit their stride and find what is just, if you really think about it, just kind of a small showcasing of what is their full capability is Oxygen. And the fact that they pick up these 2 new players and they've looked so stellar for their first 5 games, only dropping 1 so far.
Yeah, only dropping 1. Fortunately, we are going to have a very quick break as we have a tech pause that's still underway. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. always tell you, do I ever lead you astray? Have I ever led you astray? I'm not talking to you, Sam. I'm talking.
You want me to answer that?
I'm talking to the people. I don't want to hear your opinion. It's gonna be lies. It's gonna be untruths, misstatements, and false implications. I'm speaking to the people because I am, Vox Populi and all that. I'm a man of the people. I told you to be quick, and it's quick. We're 2 rounds in. We're on round 3. We had a round from SSG where they suddenly snuck in and got the diffuser down, and then we had a round where OXG just shot everybody. And now, hopefully, we find a happy medium. Happy medium in round 3 is what we're going for.
Oh, man. There was a way to boil down round 2. That might have been the best way.
I got to interrupt. In case you're wondering, remember when I said OXG don't need to take this game super seriously?
Yeah.
There is a Maestro and a Doc on the board. And Dream is not playing Maestro.
They're trying things out, They gotta try and stress test things, see what everybody in the roster is capable of, right? So they're gonna give the keys to the Mercedes AMG over to Yogg, and they're gonna give the keys to the Ferrari over to Dream. I really like that. Diaz is gonna go down though. A nice find here from what I believe is Ashen over on Square. Didn't exactly catch that, but yeah, SSG with the initial frag and Yogg.
That's a Dream Evil Eye right there.
That is an insanely creative way to be able to handle that, and I'm kind of genuinely surprised that SSG was not ready for that Evil Eye there. I figured they'd drum that out.
I mean, obviously, it's you want to say like, all right, you should have droned it out. You should have done your due diligence, but like who's putting Evil Eye in Lone
Yeah,
Office?
what kind of a sweaty person?
If we're being honest, who's putting an Evil Eye there? Like, on no planet are you going into round 3 like, oh, they have a Maestro. I got to check behind this random desk in Lone Office in case they have an Evil Eye. I mean, they know about it now. They're able to hack the Evil Eye, and Janino still has 12x Kairos, and Folt still has 3 Selmas to open up this position. For a CEO attack, they have ample hard breach, and it seems like they're just going to send it on in. Smoke bolts go out, force through the diffuser. Folt's the main entry to create that space, but not the first to die. As Forrest cut down, Folt will catch the diffuser before it even hits the ground, and he'll put it on its transition down to the floor successfully. Post play now initiated. 4v4. Folt's able to find one, but Newers with a nice couple shots on Ashen is able to retake square control. Now Bolts has to turn around and rely on the rest of his teammates to hold down the site. The Azami found out. Yogg now trapped inside of Electrical. Might be able to find one as both players relying on the secondary to get the job done. It's Foltz with the better shots and SSG with the lead.
It's pretty sound from both teams, but a little bit of a clown fiesta at the end of the day with some of the crazier circumstances that we saw inside of that round. Either way, though, SSG are the ones that come out on top of this heap after Foltz finds a nice little 2K there. Not only capable of downing the player working his way up square, but also able to use that secondary to full efficiency inside of Janitor. Very well done there from SSG. You didn't really have a lot of confidence in them swinging it off the north windows in the fashion that they did you?
It is SSG confidence, especially on the attack. Say what you will about SSG. Sometimes they can be a bit overconfident. Sometimes they can make plays when they don't need to. But this team is never underconfident. This team is never scared to make the play. It always seems to be a problem in execution, but never necessarily a problem in actually trying to make a play, actually trying to make something happen. They've always got that intentionality there. They've always got the confidence to crank, as I believe Callout likes to say. I think in the 1 or 2 tactical timeouts we heard, he literally said, remember to crank. It's literally part of the team's foundational philosophy. SSG is known for that. SSG can do it very well. And when it comes to hitting quick executes on a CEO, I can think of no better team who is up to that task than Spacestation Gaming.
Yeah. Especially with the re-education of Iconic, he's working his way back into this roster. And I think that he really holds that at his center as well.
I mean, this is basically just reuniting with the old Astralis core, Forest, J90, Iconic, and honestly, Ashen spiritually being a part of that lineup, kind of filling the Smith position, the youngster they brought in who's fully bought into the system. I think Ashen would have fit right on in with the Astralis days on that SI-23 run they went on where they got top 4. He'd have been right there. He'd have been right there, down with everything along the way. Of course, right here, certainly down in round 4, at least through this game so far. 3-2 at the moment. Everybody from SSG really, or you'd hope would show up. Fultz, JNNO, Ashen having a good performance. Forrest and Iconic, though, definitely the two lowest rated players on the team, both struggling on the entry, oftentimes being negative by like -7 or 8. And here, not Forrest, not Iconic, but Fultz has got the play. He's got right on the hatch, drops down right as the warden goes to that C4. Brilliant read and great timing by Fultz right there.
Spacestation on really solid pace here today, especially in this offensive half. I think they've been looking pretty good. Oxygen obviously able to pull the wool over their eyes when it came to that last round, but when it comes to round far, so far has been the Astronauts to take full control of this one, bring Oxygen out into space and see what they're capable of. So far, it's not been too much. They've been snuffed out. Minute and 18 seconds remain. And I will say this, at least for the OXG case, they have quite a bit of utility still stockpiled in the likes of Nitro Cells, Impacts, as well as Smokes on Dream.
And the Vulcan packs as well.
Oh, no!
Ashen put Newers to 90 HP. JNNO able to find the follow-up. Does flash himself, unfortunately. I think flashes himself again. So maybe we will see SSG with the follow-up, though. Gomez and Diaz Lucas, the Vector brothers, finding a couple kills in that late round, but SSG on the flood. Simply too good at the moment. 3-1 on bank and looking quite nice on this attacking side.
Yeah. There really wasn't too much to say about that round for either party. A very standard hold there from Oxygen and a very standard take from Space Station. And yeah, we had some semblances of aggression out of each respective party. Oxygen trying to give some things up early on there, or rather take things away from SSG, but ended up giving things over instead. And SSG able to convert that. Pretty effectively. I think it was really, really well done from Space Station, especially with their clear of the open area space. That take from Fultz was especially creative, getting those drones in there, making that player think that there's going to be a lot of different angles that are going to be worked, and he simply just drops the hatch and ices that guy out. It's very well done from SSG. That's why they're up 3 rounds right now. Oxygen need to try and lean into this kit, lean into what they have kind of in the wings waiting on these defenses.
The solo's got to be, the number one right there, right? Lean into what they have in terms of this lineup. We've seen some good work from the Zotos going back to that basement round, even though OXG ended up losing it, completely stopping SSG from opening up the small office hatch to look down right into the bomb site to cover the diffuser. They ended up planning anyway. But now with that Solus, you can do a lot of work in the early round that OXG haven't really been doing a whole lot of, or at least not doing a lot of successfully. The Warden being taken out early on last round. SSG on CEO. Sure, they might lose the opening pick, but they're still able to get a lot of control really quickly, and OXG can't deny it. Now with the Solus, maybe you stall out more time by shooting a lot of the drones, forcing SSG to go into an execute blind or not get the kills that maybe Fultz was able to in the previous round. At least right now, that hasn't really happened. SSG still have 9 drones, and JNNO very confidently has moved up the server stairs and now is an angle into the bottom of square. He has stepped on a goo mine, though, so Dream is not only aware of his position, but a well-placed impact grenade will take down at least, I believe, one of those Selmas from JNNO.
Yeah, able to get rid of one. I love that you highlighted Dream earlier because they've definitely, at least for this matchup, put him on oh my gosh. Forrest has completely cleaned out the entire interior of the site. This is squeaky clean. Newers is dead. Dream is the only man alive, and it's only because he's not playing his usual position inside of the heart of the site. He's playing an annex position instead. Space Station, but let's be real, Forrest bodies Oxygen, completely takes control of open area, and it's going to be a flawless round for Space Station as they're ahead 4-1. And I think it will be indeed the timeout by OXG.
A little round 6 timeout. All right, fair enough. When your opponent's potentially going to go up 5-1, not a whole lot of great options. You could either save it for later, and then you go down 5-1, and you're like, well, I don't know if I want to do it at the side swap. But then if you wait one more round, it's match point. You might as well. If you get one more defense on the board, and OXG's attacks and defenses this stage have looked quite good, I think he'll be okay. We'll say, of course, SSG's attacks are looking very good on bank. This is not simply a case of SSG are good on attack. They are... I don't really know what they're feeling, to be honest with you, because... To be fair, this might be something. I'm focused on the Selmas over on the quad wall. And I think maybe OXG were 2, and then Forrest just hits the site. But SSG are just going for full-blown rushes, full-blown plants, and you would not think this was a team who needs this win to make playoffs or to still have a chance at making playoffs and staving off elimination.
Yeah. I think the thing that has stood out to me so far from SSG is that they kind of want the smoke. You know what I mean? They want to take the fight to Oxygen. They're more than willing to try and stand at home plate and, you know, take a few swings to things. And I really, really appreciate them for that, especially with how these last few games have going. It's been a lot of growing pains for SSG, especially when you have somebody brand new at the helm. It can kind of feel like, yeah, we still have a lot of the tools that we had previously, but when there's an entirely new beat to how we go about things, it's really going to change up how we kind of go about solving problems, how we kind of go about clearing things, you know, a bunch of different circumstances that are going to be a whole heck of a lot for you know, everybody across SSG to kind of maneuver around. And I think this is the very first game, especially up against a team like Oxygen, where I've seen them so comfortable.
It's also just entertaining, I won't lie to you. Just kind of fun just to, for the final game of the night,
Right.
just sit back and say, all right, it's physically impossible for me to catch everything that's going on because of how quickly it's happening, so I'll just enjoy the ride. Dokkaebi call goes out, and I think Newer's conditioned at this point to some fast plays from SSG. Might get a little worried that somebody has somehow, I don't know, teleported behind him inside a stock. He's at least got Diaz to back him up on the top of Marble Stairs, so this roam with some teeth and some support if Newers wants to get aggressive. The Specchio didn't do a whole lot of damage to... Of course, I mean, why? He's just in blue. He's just bottom server.
It's like you said, we're not going to be able to catch everything. All of a sudden, Forest, of course it has to be Forest, right?
And he's leaving.
He works this way all the way up into server, and then he leaves. He leaves. Bolts, easy.
GG.
Easy breezy, beautiful. Newer's dead. They've gotten the pick. SSG, again, I will say this again. This is the best that we've seen them this entire stage. They are looking so solid on trying to isolate a lot of these high-flying players like Newers on Oxygen.
Yeah, I've had concerns about, you know, how SSG are getting adjusted to the new calling system, how having Iconic, a very vocal player, amongst a legion of vocal players, specifically Forest and Ashen, whether that might clutter the communication. It seems that has happened in the previous games, but right now, you'd think OXG were just kind of sitting, waiting for SSG to push. I mean, Newer's caught completely off guard. Foltz with some great reads in the early rounds so far, by the way. Dropping down the hatch with that Warden back in round 4. Getting really aggressive on the top floor to find the Solus by herself on the top floor. And Forrest, who was down here earlier, realized, okay, there's a pretty solid anchor setup down here. We don't need to hit the site now, but he's still read that it's free and just retakes the control later in the round. So SSG with a man advantage, taking down that Solus, and still with 7 drones to find this remaining utility, and the Clutches too to hunt down these Evil Eyes. They are set up so well for this execute.
They are, but here's the one thing though, or a couple of things rather. We still have not only a solid man count for Oxygen, but 2 operators that still have some pretty great utility. Dream with some smokes. He has a huge moment here. Something that he desperately needs to win out is this garage position, and he's going to lose it instead. Forrest and Fultz with 2 big kills. Forrest goes down, and they don't even need the plant. You can read it on Iconic's face, folks. It was destined. That wasn't something that happened unintentionally. That was completely designed by that man's insane brain. What a great round out of Space Station as they strike at the heart of the site and they make them bleed. Oxygen, only 1 round on the defensive side of things.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Well, SQ a little concerned with SSG's performance in the first half. As I said, at least based on the info I have and the numbers we have crunched. An SSG win in regulation means SQ are out of playoffs, and they're 1 round away from match point. It's been their defenses that have been the problem, and if we see SSG storm into round 7 and move Space Station to match point, the Sonics might very well find themselves knocked out of playoffs, and well, Sam and I will be done with the match a lot earlier than we expected.
Yeah. You know, when it comes to these days, Carter, you've been doing this for a while, right? But just for some education for the folks at home, right? You walk into one of these days and you kind of get your own semblance of what the heck you think is going to go on for the day, right? When I sat down today and I looked at our docket, man, you guys just really can't let me finish my point,
We
can
just
ya?
like you know, I know some people are like, don't go off topic, don't go off topic. Like, it's the first 15 seconds of the round, man, and he's just killed Iconic in open area.
It's just something. But either way, I definitely did not think that this game would be as thrown into one advantage as it is. And as of right now, SSG have 4 rounds to completely toss away, really, in order to figure this out. Now, this very first round is already not going pretty. Iconic not only loses his life, but he also loses a zombie, which is an operator you do not want to lose early on, as her utility is completely time-based.
And just generates those Kibas over the course of the round. If you want to hold on to open area, she's so useful. You put a Kiba on some of those desks, and it can already be a maze to hunt down a roamer. Just crouch walking behind those desks. You know, suddenly they're on one side of the room, and if you're not careful, they'll crouch walk all the way to the other. With those Kibas, it makes it a lot easier. You can basically, you have to play whack-a-mole trying to hunt down a roamer in that position. So with Iconic gone, not as much of a problem for OXG on this clear. They've got a 5v4. They've still got a minute 40 seconds left. So even if they're a little slow to take control of this middle floor, they can still find themselves in good time. Only concern, of course, Sam, I mean, you still got the Evil Eyes, you still got the smokes, but with no Vulcan packs, I mean, they might be able to deal with that utility. Oh, hello, Jane, I know. Oh,
Don't
thanks.
speak on it just yet. If you speak on it, things might go wrong, and he doesn't even get a kill because of your words.
I'm sorry.
We'll blame Carter,
I'm
SSG
sorry.
fans. How dare you? They're going to lose 2 bodies instead. Minute and 10 seconds remain. Oxygen in a great position to try and handle this. Gomez almost threw me off with that M80 sleeve as well. I'm not going to lie to you. That went down for a second. I was like, wait, am I casting the right team? No, I am. And Yogg's going to reinforce that as well, as he'll make sure that Oxygen pull ahead. 3 kills going their way. It's a 5 versus 2 in favor of OXG.
Is this round like the Rainbow Six version of a Thrifty? Like, look at how little utility has been expended to get this 5v2. They used 1 swarm grenade to get the kill on Marble Stairs. Then everything else has just been free. Yaga is down, and OXG aren't exactly long on time. So if Ashen and Janino's positions can work, they might be able to get this round over the line. Gomez put
No
low.
way.
C4 goes out. Dream forced to back off, but Newers is able to find the player from the hatch. Ashen spots him, though. Downstream on the floor. That's diffuser dropped, but he's got to survive with 20 seconds left. And no, Diaz hunts him down, finds him. Flawless round for OXG. No match point just yet.
I was going to say, don't even bring that up. Oxygen have made so much headway. There's just no way. But they do get that down, though, for SSG's sake. But past that, it's all Oxygen all day when it comes to their first offensive round, and something that they're going to be very happy about, giving them just a little bit of reinforcement in their minds, giving them the capabilities to try and push themselves forward, because sometimes when things look grim, man, it's just difficult to try and fight out these rounds. But now Oxygen know that SSG can bleed after that basement defense.
Know that they aren't just going to stomp them 7-1 like Dark Zero did yesterday. As strong an attack as you could ask for OXG to start. I made the Thrifty comparison, and really, I mean, obviously, Newers gets the first pick onto Iconic for free. Don't know if he was contesting the window. Maybe Newers got lucky with a pre-fire through the barricade. Who knows? It happens either way. And then after that, OXG just used 1 canister from the swarm launcher from Grim. Able to find Gomez, who is aggressively playing with the shotgun. Then get a 5v2, just again, somebody caught beneath the hatch. SSG definitely caught with their pants down in a lot of those engagements, and got to be careful you don't end up making those kinds of mistakes, because remember, you're still 5-2. It is possible OXG can make the 6-round comeback, and if you lose in regulation, you are knocked out of playoffs. It's not that your fate is out of your hands, you are out. So, just 1 round, still have the lead. SSG, got to be careful, because OXG got a lot for very little.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. Although you have these rounds built up, and it seems like you know, Oxygen have this mountain to climb, at the end of the day, it can slip away so very
Just like
quickly.
that.
So yeah, SSG have to be very aware that every single one of these rounds is going to matter just as much as what they were doing on the offensive side as they were trying to build this treasure trove. So now, round 8. Oxygen looking to try and shore up the scoreline as much as possible. They're going to put Yogg back onto a tried and true throughout the stage. He's going to go into the Nook.
On the Nook, and he will fire that FMG-9, so anybody on SSG with keen ears might have heard that and might be aware a Nook is on the board potentially. Grenade goes out, takes down the Banshee on Spiral Stairs as well. We do have somebody playing on the top of that position right around Banana. Maybe he did hear the FMG9. They are at least aware of somebody's main lobby with that utility, so whether they know it's a Nook or not, Jana was certainly concerned somebody could walk up the marble staircase, or sorry, the main staircase, Spiral Stairs, at some point in the round. Aside from Yaga's position inside of ATMs, though he is being joined by somebody in main lobby, players in the rappel as well, might just try to pinch these players from the Spiral Stairs position, force them into the line of sight of those players on rappel, and finish the round that way.
Dog. This fight,
knows.
we all know where it's coming to, and oh man, it just goes wide, doesn't it? J9O gunned down Yogg, and not only that, folks, Gomez loses his life too. This round practically over for Oxygen unless they can do something extremely considerable. This has looked like an entirely different SSG here on Bank, and although they've gotten Ashen, still some road to go. Only down one man though, so a different situation from what was previously presented to them, and they've got some top floor control.
They do have some top floor control, but
Oh
by
my
the
God.
way, the site's open area, by the way. Fultz has just cut down Dream on the top floor. I honestly saw how much pressure, and I'm like, is the site upstairs? Did I mess up? No, it's an open area defense. And OXG wastes so much time, try so hard to get an advantage, and not only do they lack one, they haven't even done an iota of damage to the actual site structure. Diaz certainly worse for wear. Impact Grenade puts him to below 50 HP. Newer sprays an entire magazine into the soft wall. Diaz goes to retake the same spot and loses the fight. 6-2 up for SSG, 1 round away, and Sonics are out of playoffs.
Man, at least for Sonic's sake, what a terrible day for the Sonics to, or rather for SSG to hit their stride, right? It's just so unfortunate for them. But SSG, for their own circumstances, they are looking great. They are looking like a completely different team than what we've been seeing previously. Is they've been able to build on top of themselves, figure out how they want to try and go about things, at least for Bank, when it comes to this team structure. Is from the very start of that round to the very finish, SSG are in the driver's seat, and there's nothing that Oxygen's really capable of.
No, and I know that Desk talked about that sometimes SSG's defenses can rely a lot on huge individual performances, but also costly individual mistakes. And when the attack is relatively static, you know, you've got 2 players on the rappel, 1 guy over on top of, I believe, the square skylight, and then 2 people main lobby, but the tip of the spear is just Nook Crouch walking up the Spiral Stairs. It's pretty easy for J9O, who's already expecting someone to push Spiral Stairs, to win that fight. It's easy for Ashen to get active when you're on the rappel. There's a very limited circle of movement, and with the super shorty, just a couple well-placed shots, 5v3. SSG do know how to get aggressive. They do know when to take those risks, and in this particular case, with the strategy OXG had, the risks were relatively safe. Up 6-2 now. Colts all the way down in the basement on this Echo. Of course, if you remember that locker CCTV attack, you know it was not exactly great for SSG. I'm not entirely shocked that we don't see I think as hard of a roam as we saw before.
Yeah. Still willing to take a few aggressive angles like we saw out of Fultz, but nothing too crazy. Just something to try and battle back against Oxygen if they want to go for any early clear, any early map pressure, which they won't, at least on the basement level. They will on the top floor, though. Expected, especially when it comes to Bank, this full clear working its way through with Yaga as the spearhead. Take a few vertical angles, and why not? They more than recognize that Oxygen, or, you know, at least for Oxygen's sake, that SSG is inside of open area. And they most definitely are. Also well aware that there is a player, J9O, inside of Elevator too. So Oxygen going to continue to try and assist with this top floor control, but will likely try and work a few extra bodies in on this mid-level to assist in clearing this out.
Also, it just occurred to me, this is actually the exact same roam SSG did before, but just because nobody died in the first half of the round, I was like, oh, this is a little different. And it's not. Iconic's fallen back. Janino's still Elevator, but OXG should be aware of that, considering they found him in that very position before, but he's fallen back. So overall, I mean, good roam from SSG to start, Sam. Minute and a half wasted. OXG have to pick up, you know, the pace a little bit on this middle floor clear. You've got all the utility alive to deny that plant. This is a great spot for SSG to close it out.
This is getting real risky for Oxygen. They really haven't found a place to try and strike true. They haven't found any area where there's potentially a moment that they can at least try and pull something back across the line. The biggest thing that they've gotten for themselves is a little bit of utility out of Forrest, but he still has a smoke inside of his pocket as he holds down Blue. Now, the big moment here for Oxygen is how do they try and answer this? SSG have forced them into a terrible position, and now they have to try and gun themselves out of it.
SSG, just don't give away picks. Hold your ground. Wait for OXG to push into you. J90 does take a fight. And Newer's cut down. Now is the time to make sure you force OXG to flood into you. Just stand your ground. Just hold a little strong. And you'll eliminate one of the top 6 teams in the world from the NA League playoffs. But DS has cut down Ashen. Dog has cut down Foltz. The Warden now down 2. OXG have retaken the lead. Forces to rotate back as Iconic's cut short. How do they win that? They just drop down a couple hatches, move down a staircase. It seems like SSG can't even shoot back.
No, SSG are capable of keeping Oxygen outside of their realm for some time, but Oxygen made such solid headway when it came to hatches and other entry points that they were able to try and exploit the back end of SSG's setup. They fall into Gold Vault, they get some pretty pivotal kills, yes, but it's kind of traded evenly from SSG until they start to make their solid headway over inside of that elevator area as well as the vault space. And it all boils down to this, that lone player that we see over inside of a server, or rather CCTV. It's going to be Forrest. And, we all saw how that worked out for him. Oxygen able to pull that back across the line. And that's a huge round for them, especially given the circumstances of how SSG are able to try and box them out. Oxygen don't really have a realm where they're supposed to try and win that out. It should be SSG trying to kill them immediately as soon as they make these entries. But instead, it's OXG finding some really big moments, some really big kills, and not even needing the plant in order to pull that one across and keep themselves alive here on Bang.
And while the previous defense, we saw a lot of action on this top floor. Not the previous defense, the one before that, but the previous time we saw a lot of action on this top floor, it wasn't actually really even a CEO defense. This time, it very much is. SSG actually holding this top floor with the bomb site on it this time, though a lot of similarities in the setup, especially Ashen on that castle. I really think he'll probably play a similar position that he did on that open area defense, being able to get aggressive on those north repels, whether with the super shorty or with the UMP, also able to fight long angles around square. I'm pretty sure that part of the setup will likely be pretty normal. Only real kind of curveball is maybe the bandit a little bit, but even then, once those batteries are down, Sam, I doubt SSG are going to be holding a lot of different positions aside from you got your elevator player, you got your banana player, there's somebody on the long angles holding top square. Probably nothing crazy.
Yeah, it shouldn't be anything too wild, especially since it is that top floor, right? You shouldn't be seeing too many crazy things work their way out from SSG because there's a lot of real estate on this top floor that you should be holding down initially. And that's what we're going to see out of SSG, kind of the initial beginnings of a top floor defense as they await Oxygen and see what they kind of want to try and do with this initial portion of the round. And when you know it, going to be a lot of north pressure and Ashen taking down Gomez.
Found Gomez in literally this exact same spot on that open area defense. So different bomb site, but same player killed by Ashen on this top floor. Opening pick again going the way of SSG. The bandit trick for the elevator wall. I love this out of Forrest. So long as they can keep control of main lobby, he is safe to burn those X-Kairos as much as he wants. And it might not even really matter that much in the end. I mean, it matters now, certainly, but Ashen found the second. Newer's down as well. So that Grim to flood the bomb site with bees and intel being gathered for the attack no longer on the board. How do you come back from this with your OXG? You can't really go in for a rappel anymore. That's not likely, Sam. Y'all just got to pray he wins this gunfight as he pushes up the main stairs.
Yeah, and that's the issue now. You're practically asking SSG to create an error, make an opportunity for you to work your way back into this round. Usually the offense trends towards site trends towards the offense usually, but instead it's been defensive favored. And yeah, what a moment there. Or it's gonna end up getting traded out, but it's down to the 2 versus 4, and just such an insane round out of Space Station. DS as well as Dream gonna try and work their way up red stairs. DS is gonna get gunned down, and what? What?
GG. GG.
Ashen with a super shorty will clean up 2 at the top of red. And that's going to be Space Station taking bank over our #1 team inside of North America.
Ah, the glasses are back. I mean, after a win like that, I get it, man. Very clean win from Space Station Gaming on Bang. That much can be said. However, something that does also need to be said, with that victory by Space Station, as I believe my math is correct, it has locked the Sonics out of playoffs because SSG win regulation, 3 points. They go up to 11. So you've got SSG 11, Wildcard 11, Dark 0 9, and then Sonics at 7. Even if Sonics win in regulation tomorrow, they can only get 10 points, which means of our 2 remaining spots, there's at least 2 now with 11. And that, my friends, is a math lesson on how a top 6 team at SI has somehow found their way into the LCQ far earlier than they hoped.
Yeah, that's what an insane story for Sonics across this entire stage. I'm a little bit baffled at the results here, but you know, for SSG, you definitely got to tip the cap. They looked so stellar today here on Bank. They completely surprised Oxygen. I mean, what else is there to say? They were taken to some of the best in the business here in NA.
And OXG proving that, you know, they can still have it. They've got some good moments, but while their playoffs fate is sealed, SSG now still looking to get into the fray. That is Sam and I done for the day. Thank you for having us, Cast. I think that's our final day of the NAL regular stage, or the group stage. We will be back for playoffs, of course, but that's it for us today. We have the desk right now to break down SSG's win, but more importantly, Sonic's early exit.
I guess we've learned there's one constant in the NAL. Nobody beats Space Station Gaming 5 times in a row. 4 times it has precedent. It's happened 2 times already over the course of the NAL in just the past year, but that 5th time, just not gonna happen. Space Station have not been knocked out of orbit. Instead, they still now have a fighting chance after getting a full 3 points in this matchup, but I mean, Oxygen just didn't even seem like they were there. That's 4 rounds won, right, over the course of just 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, they have completely fallen apart this week. And, you know, you might be thinking, oh, well, you know what, Oxygen, yeah, they're losing these games, but it doesn't matter. They're the top North American League. But now they're in a very serious problem where if they do not show up tomorrow, they will not be in the top 2 position based on how we expect the games to go tomorrow. So they're in a very precarious spot. This was a game they really did want to win to lock down that top 2 right here, right now, but they can't get it done. SSG rolls over them on Bank, and I mean, maybe there's a reason why this was a perma ban for Oxygen for so long.
I wish I could say that it was OXG playing bad, but I think SSG just had a great understanding of what OXG was going to throw at them. Every single attack that SSG was a part of, they went very slow. They knew OXG wanted these fights. So Space Station slowly and methodically set up around the site that they were going to hit. They didn't go for gunfights, and as soon as the plant was going to go down, that's when everybody hit at the exact same time to take the attention away from the plant. Once the plant was down, everyone from SSG just stopped moving, and OXG had to then play as a team. They couldn't rely on their gunfight ability.
So Space Station had a really good game plan. It was something that the casters touched on earlier. Probably the best Space Station overall play we've seen in just a best of 1 with Iconic on this roster. And they also apparently have a CAO, a Chief Annoyance Officer, for some particular reason on Bank. Walk us through it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought it was so funny watching Ashen because he was always being a thorn in OXG's side, especially on the basement, constantly gathering information on Garage. If you guys know Basement Bank, being in this position, he is running the DMR, make note of that. He's just constantly shooting the toes or gathering information of Garage. It's such a pivotal point. Sometimes you can lose the site simply by losing Garage control. And
he just does it over and over again.
He just does it over and over again. Every single basement time, he puts his drone in the same spot, gathers information. If somebody's there, he taps his toes away. And even when he doesn't get the kill right there, he took the attention away from the Garage player for so long that somebody else, I believe it was Iconic, was able to drop from the hatch uncontested and shoot the player in Garage in the back. And that's just the importance of what SSG was doing on every single site, setting up all around, being a little bit of annoying and slowly hitting them little by little until OXG just frustrated themselves out, overpeaked, lost the duel, and then the plant would come through, and that was it.
Yeah, we often talk about Ashen as this big individual fragger for Space Station. He's often the focal point of SSG, the one who's out there on the roam getting a ton of kills, on the roam clear getting a ton of kills. But I think on those basement rounds in particular, it's pretty obvious that he is working within the system of the team, right? He's providing that distraction so his teammates can go for that execute. We still see the pop-offs. The final round, I want to say he got a 4K on the top floor defense. So still having a very successful time when he needs to step up individually, but also can play as a part of that system for SSG. And I think that's why he's been so successful as a new player coming into Space Station. I say new, he's actually been around for a very long time at this point.
Right.
Coming up on a year, if not a year already. But
I get what you mean.
yeah, I mean, it's still working his way in for this system. He's been one of my favorite players to watch over the last year or so. And yeah, it's great to see him continue to thrive.
It was one of those games where we noticed that Dream has been given a lot of freedom, especially in the roles that he played. And we talked to him in an interview, and he spoke about his success where it got him a lot more comfortable out of his shell playing. But in this system and the way OXG was constantly split up, going for gunfights, a lot of the time it felt like they were leaving Dream out on an island, especially with the rest of the players always out on an island. And SSG was doing such a good job at attacking them with more than one person. And it looked like I was watching SSG play like OXG. It looked like the vice versa. And we talked about how SSG's defenses were the issue, and it didn't really matter because they were able to amount such a lead on attack, playing so amazingly on attack. The adaptation was great. They didn't have to show it on defense as much.
Well, let's get that Chief Annoyance Officer in the lobby real quick to talk about how this game went. Ashen, if you can hear me, first of all, congrats. That was a hard-fought dub, and it's a good thing to finally get back in the win column. But just walk me through real quick. 4 games lost in a row. Not the first time it's happened for Space Station. You were in this exact same position in stage 2 of last year. But what was the key to pull you out of it this time? You did it once before. Now you did it here. How'd you get the dub today?
Yeah, I think the difference between this stage and the last stage, honestly, is like the problems weren't really like as major as they were in the in stage 2 of last year. I think, it was a lot of small, minute details that happened this stage where, it's just like we had a lot of close games, a lot of 7-5s. But, I think, we have the best mental fortitude in North America, if not the world, out of any team, and just our ability to stick with it. And, playoffs, out of our control. So, we just got to come up here and we just got to crank. And, we had a great game plan for today. We executed it well. And you know what? It's just, it's just good. Got to break that little loss streak. So it's good to get that win.
Great. Ashen, forgive me if I'm wrong, but something that I've been noticing a lot on you guys is on attacks, your adaptability is great. You guys play off of each other really well. Everything is there. But when it comes to your defenses, it feels like there's a lot of positions where it's left up to big individual plays to pull you guys out of a round that you've been able to lose. Obviously not today, but in prior games throughout the season, we've seen you specifically and other players have to go massive to bring back these rounds, and it comes down to a lot of individual plays. Is that something that you guys are noticing on the back end that you're trying to fix, or is that just something that just occurs in the moment of the games?
I think it's something that occurs in the moment of the game. Obviously, we have all 5 of us can have our moments to pop off, in our zones, in our spots. I think yesterday in the Beast Coast game, it was in a lot of these games just more of a matter of not being able to react fast enough and just adapt fast enough. But those first couple games, there are a lot of pop off moments, and I think against those teams where they can be kind of bad at like clearing you in your spots where, that gives you the opportunity to go big. But some of these other teams that, they're just like doing cheese attacks or anything like that, you got to play more reactive. And, it's just something that we were a little too slow on. We recognize our problems and, we just got to, it's just all about reading the game at the end of the day. And, we were a little slow in those last couple games, but, we fixed it.
Heard.
We know what we need to do, so.
Well, Ashen, what you need to do going into tomorrow is absolutely nothing because your group stage is done. We don't know yet exactly where you're going to be finishing. That depends on what happens tomorrow. But going into the next phase, whether that is qualifiers or whether that is playoffs, you're going to be transitioning more into BO3s. How do you feel as a team going into these BO3s? Because the BO1s have been kind of brutal for you. As you said it yourself, lots of small mistakes. Do you find that as a unit, as a squad, you thrive better in those BO3s? And do you feel that minimizes the chances for mistakes?
Yeah, for sure. I think best of 3s are definitely our domain. Going from last stage, into Atlanta and the invite, all that, that's just, we're a lot more comfortable in best of 3s. And, that's where a lot of souls get taken. So a lot of these teams that want to talk a lot of trash and, clap back at me, we'll have to see if they want to keep it up in best of 3s or if they're, they're just going to get gassed out. So, you know, it's out of our control if we make it or not to playoffs. Regardless, you know, if you have to go through LCQ, you know, we've done it before. We're here to take more souls. So.
All right, well, we'll keep on waiting with bated breath to figure out if you're going to playoffs or if you'll have to make the qualifier run. But again, you've done the qual thing before. The first time you had any games with Space Station was doing that exact same path. So if you need to, you can replicate the way you got to Atlanta in order to make it to Manchester, right?
Yeah, we love to do it the hard way, I guess. So, you know, just whoever we play against, you know, like I said earlier, pressure's a privilege. So, you know, we thrive in the pressure. You know, there's been many times where our back's been up against the wall. We have all the tools we need to deal with it. It's just about all these other teams, you know, just, you know, they don't know how to deal with pressure like us. So I'm not worried.
Fair play. Pressure is a privilege. One more time, dude. Again, congratulations on the win, but we will be waiting at the same time as you to figure out where you're going tomorrow. All right, dude? Take care.
Yep, thank you. You too.
Space Station stage is now officially done and dusted. No more best of ones for them to play, regardless if it happens in open qualifier. But I mean, they're not going to perform nearly as bad. They can't be usurped and go into the open qualifier playoffs. It's close qualifier or playoffs for them at this stage. There's no in between.
Yeah, and you know, I've been running the numbers. I've done some mathematics, and I've established that it's very, very, very unlikely that Space Station will end up in those qualifiers. In fact, I've looked through all the possibilities.
All right, Dr. Strange.
I've seen all the instances, and there's only one where Space Station don't end up in playoffs.
Okay, what is that?
That one scenario would be in our first game tomorrow against Dark Zero and Wildcard. The only situation where Space Station do not make it to playoffs is if we get a 7-5 victory specifically for Dark Zero.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if Wildcard win in any fashion, then Dark Zero won't have enough points to overstep Space Station. And then if it doesn't go 7-5, if it's a more dominant victory, then we see Space Station having a better round differential than Wildcard.
Oh, the tiebreakers.
And if it goes to overtime, then again, we're seeing the round differential get better for Space Station. They have a better round diff than we'll see from whoever loses that. Yeah.
Okay, so all Space Station doesn't want is a 7-5 victory for who?
7-5 victory for Dark Zero.
Which is scary, because
so
that's
they
really
are now
probable.
Wildcard's biggest fans for tomorrow, basically.
Yeah, I mean, or even just a more dominant victory would be fine for them. I mean,
Sure, but if Wildcard
what
win,
are
they just
the
avoid
odds?
the possibility. Yeah.
What are the odds that you get a 7-5 victory now?
1 in
think it's
6 billion.
I think it's pretty high. I can't lie. If any team's going to go 7-5 and bring it to the distance, I feel like it's going to be Dark Zero.
That's fair. That's
Like,
fair.
I feel like
That's
all
scary.
their games except for the one against OXG and the one they got blew out by Beast Coast.
I don't know, man. There's like part of that is true, but the other part of it, there's also some slight sarcasm to wondering, can DZ go the distance? It's a question we keep on asking ourselves. This is standings after we've gone through everything thus far. Actually, this is schedule. My bad. Recap on the day. Here's what happened. There are some cases where this would have been a crazy back and forth, but instead, every game felt like it was one-sided from the jump. And what happened? Wildcard, Beast Coast, LG, and Space Station all get dubs. I think all of them either had a 4-2 or a 5-1 half, and then just won the game from that point.
It really looks like the game day of just upsets.
Yeah.
You go into this game day and you would look at it and expect maybe the other team to win, besides maybe Los.
It's not even low, so it was the
LG.
only non-upset.
That
Yeah.
was a very close one, but everything else was such an upset. And not to mention, Lax picked every upset except for the last game where he had to go with OXG. So, I mean, unfortunately for him, he just doesn't step up in the predictions. I felt like he was onto something today.
It was honestly such a day of upsets that you could say, supposedly, if you had predicted all 4 games incorrectly, that almost makes you the smarter analyst of anybody who could have done that.
So being dumber in this position actually makes you smarter unintentionally.
Yes, exactly. You're hitting my point. You're
I'm
in a second.
right now.
Glad
Who
we're on the
got
same
all
page.
4 games wrong today?
Well, you know what? It's difficult to paint the. I might have. But
We still have that clown
Who
hair
got them
somewhere?
all wrong today?
We
That's
still have
right.
the clown hair somewhere.
Is it still back there? There's the nose. All of them. Dude, yeah, you're
That's
like,
tough.
What are you at, 45% now?
we don't have to do the math, do we?
5%?
We have
like
to
a
count the
32.
numbers. Wow.
Do we have
Higher
the
than that. Oh, they did the math. At 47, that's not that bad.
Oh, it was
That's
at
not that
48
bad.
before. It's still
That's not that
plummeting.
bad.
It's still plummeting.
I can get above 50.
They brought the OXG picks up. I mean, that's
I also love how
rough
your
situation.
philosophy was, okay, Laxing and I are tied, so we'll both go with the same one. But now at this point, because you both got it wrong, it's less about who gets above the other, and if you fail, I'm taking you down with me.
I'm not going to lie. I thought Lax was going to pick SSG, so I was going to pick SSG, but because he picked OXG to make sure that we stay in unison, we could let Jesse get one because he's pretty
Right.
far down there. But I was like, I'm going to pick OXG. I also, to be fair, thought OXG would have shown a better performance, but SSG really looked like the better team today. day.
Yeah, you'd think. And also, there's something else we need to announce, and we'll do it with the standings right next to us. There's another team that got knocked out of playoff contention today, and that's the Sonics. Even though there's still one more game for them to play, there's no possibility that they can make a jump up at the top 6 now.
Yeah, because obviously the max Sonics can get tomorrow is 3 points. That brings them up to 10. 10 would be enough to beat Dark Zero, but of course, that's not going to get you into 6th place. There's too many teams with 11 or more at this point. So unfortunately for the Sonics, with that result, with Spacestation getting their 3 points just now, are eliminated. They'll have to go through the closed or open qualifiers. Because if Los can win their game tomorrow and Sonics lose their game, and they get a crazy round diff, Los could actually jump ahead of Sonics and force them down into the open quals.
Wow.
What a world we'd live in if Sonics got last place. And
Yeah.
play. I mean, I think qualifiers are another beast in and itself. Also, best of threes. Everybody loves best of threes.
Yeah.
But Los being able to jump over and just looking at it on paper just doesn't necessarily make sense. This whole leaderboard, if you would have asked me at the start of the season, I would have been like, no, I don't think it looks like this.
Again, both teams
I
that
don't
were
think
top
so.
6 at the Invitational, both of them could be in not the playoffs
Yep.
and have to make a qual run.
Yep.
And if that happens, only one of the teams that was top 6 at the Invitational has a shot to make Manchester.
Ridiculous.
What in the world is this league right now?
So what we're trying to say is Los technically would have done as good as Dark Zero and Sonics at the Invitational, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
I agree, yes.
Is that what we're... Okay, good. Glad we're all on the same page.
I'm not. Here's schedule for day number 9, the last day of the Super Week, and there are some important games, and there's some that are kind of, we'll figure it out. First game is the one that matters the most. Dark Zero and Wildcard fight to figure out which between the two of them actually has a shot to retain a playoff spot and which one's fighting for their lives against Space Station's point total. And then as we dwindle down, there's still some good ones, especially that second game of the day.
Yeah, and I do want to really highlight the implications for that first game, just to spell it out for everybody. If Wildcard win that game against Dark Zero are out. They are not making playoffs. If Dark Zero win, but it's overtime, Dark Zero are still out. They're not making playoffs.
Yeah.
If Dark Zero win and they get the full 3 points, they're safe, they're going to playoffs, and it will depend on if it's a 7-5 or not, who doesn't go to playoffs alongside them, Space Station or Wildcard. So the 3 teams still in contention, 2 of them will go, 1 of them will not.
Obviously, the OXG M80 game is also for first place.
Yes. Yep.
Not to say that one place matters than the other, because they both will get in an advanced spot, I believe, in the
Yes.
Well,
in the
there
playoffs.
would if it wasn't for Beast Coast being right behind both of them with potential to sneak right in.
Oh, that's true. Beast Coast is there too. But my point was going to be that game for me, even though the first one is very important, that game for me specifically, because of being on OXG, I think it's very important. I would love to see them succeed and get first, and I would personally consider it a fail if they don't get first in like the season.
I feel you, yeah.
And it's like particularly important too, because as Jacob was saying with Beast Coast play Los. I'm gonna make a wild prediction and say they're gonna beat Los.
Really?
Whoa!
That would temporarily put them up into first place, which means that whoever loses between Oxygen and M80 would not get top 2, would not get that bye.
That would be pretty devastating, because having that bye in playoffs is such a huge advantage, because all you need is one more win after that point to then secure your spot to Manchester.
And there is a possibility where the team that set the record, the first team in NAL history to go 5-0 in a round robin, doesn't get a first round bye. That is 100% possibility that is on the table. It could happen as of just tomorrow.
It'd be so funny if it's just like the same story, different people, where
OXG does really good and then falls off
goes
again.
to playoffs, loses playoffs, and then it's like, man, like, you
I
know.
wasn't the problem.
Nah.
Just validates all of Foxy's career in OXG. That would be something special. Well, I think that's it. Gentlemen, one more day left. We excited?
No.
No.
No, of course we're excited.
Fox says no.
Of course we're excited. That first game has so much pressure on it. It's the game to watch for tomorrow. The whole season is depending for those two
Thank the
teams.
schedule gods that one worked out the way that it did.
Absolutely.
I'm excited as well.
You sound so enthusiastic.
Great addition. Thank you. That was great.
All right, we'll get these clowns off the desk. Thank you very much for joining us on day 8. We're almost done with the Super Week. One more day left of best of ones to close us out, and then we get to playoffs next week. Same time, same place, 5 p.m. Eastern. Have a good night, everybody.